Business degrees suck. Here's why. So maybe that was a little bit harsh, but when I came into college as a freshman, I was a business major here at Carnegie Mellon, and by the end of my first year, I was pretty much ready to transfer out. So I want to walk you through my decision for what went into transferring out of business and why I transferred into my new major, information systems. So I want to talk about why I wanted to do business in the first place, and unfortunately that primary motivator was money. In high school, I did a business competition called DECA, and I figured I'd search up the business outcomes for business students in college, and what I came across was investment banking and management consulting, along with their salaries, which were both in the six figures right after graduation. So I figured if I enjoy this business activity in DECA and they also make a lot of money, then this is kind of a perfect thing for me, because I believe that this was the major that made the most money coming right out of college. And this was also one of the things that led to the eventual downfall of my interest in business, because after I came to Carnegie Mellon, I realized that there are other majors such as anything related to software engineering that can make as much, if not more money than these investment bankers and consultants. Another thing that chipped away at my interest in business was the career outcomes that I mentioned earlier, investment banking and management consulting. These are the two fields that business majors typically try and go for coming out of college. But after entering college, I did a little bit more research into what these jobs actually do. And first, for investment banking, the hours can stretch really, really long, even from 100 to 120 hours a week, which is pretty ridiculous considering that there's only 168 hours in a week. So if you're working 120 hours and you sleep every other second, you're still averaging less than 7 hours of sleep per night. And the second career outcome, which is management consulting, involves a lot of travel as well as still pretty long hours. And I don't really like traveling or being on planes for that long, so that wasn't very appealing to me either. Another part of these business jobs that I didn't really like was the networking. So before and during my freshman year, my dad had me call a couple of his friends at various different companies to sort of get to know them and maybe ask for referrals to those companies later on. But during those calls, I really didn't have a fun time. It felt like pretty shallow conversation and pretty pointless. It felt kind of like a business transaction in itself. And maybe I'm just bad with networking calls, but I didn't really like how it felt. The next reason that I had was I didn't really feel like I was learning very much in my classes my first year. So in my first year, I took a couple business classes such as Intro to Microeconomics, Macroeconomics, Finance, Accounting. And throughout all of these classes, I felt like I really wasn't learning anything. In my finance class specifically, I remember learning only about 3 different formulas that we just continuously applied throughout the entire semester to different problems. And that really shocked me in a negative way because I felt like I was interested in finance before coming to college, but after taking the intro course, I found it really, really boring. And this might sound a little dumb, but I just felt that the work wasn't challenging me enough, or even at all, really. And that might have been because I was surrounded by STEM majors that have worked for hours and hours every day, while me and my business friends didn't really have anything other to do than play Smash all day. And I can totally see how complaining about not having enough work sounds pretty stupid, but when you're paying $60, $70, $80,000 a year for this education, you really want to get the most out of it that you can. The next reason that I have is just that Tepper isn't that great of a business school. Yes, when you look at US News, it's in the top 10, but that really isn't the case because all of these Ivy League schools, which don't have undergraduate business schools, are probably ranked higher than Tepper in terms of recruiting. Getting these top tier jobs at these banking and consulting firms out of Carnegie Mellon is very difficult with these variety of different factors, such as feeling I wasn't challenged enough, knowing that these long working hours were going to be my future if I continued working in business, as well as knowing even if I went through all the networking and pushed myself to get a job, it probably wouldn't be that great of a job itself. I figured maybe I was ready to look towards a different career path. And so in my second semester, in the spring semester of my freshman year, I took the Intro to Programming class at Carnegie Mellon. And this was the first time in my life that I felt like I was really being challenged academically. The course was set up really well. It was taught in Python, which is very easy for beginners to learn how to code. And the problem sets were set up in such a way that solving each problem felt very rewarding in itself. This is such a nerdy thing to say, but I remember one time in freshman year, there was a weekend where my friends were ready to go out, but I stayed in to finish my homework. And it wasn't even due for like another 5 days. I just wanted to do it because it was fun. So those were all of my reasons why I decided to switch out of my business major at Carnegie Mellon. But I want to say that this is purely my subjective experience. And what I now know is that business and even software engineering is not a true passion of mine. It's just that software engineering is the path of less resistance for me in order to get that 6-figure job straight out of college. If you're thinking about making a similar transition from business to tech, I made a guide on how to get your first software internship right here.